This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, take it away, Scott.
All righty. Okay. Well, welcome, Deb. Thank you so much for coming. It's really critical that we attract some new council members. There's going to be quite a few vacancies, could be over 50%. I personally have to step down by early next year because we have a 10-year term limit, and there's some other vacancies with people have other decisions they had to make and either stepping down or not running for re-election. So thank you so much for coming. The recruitment committee, 2 council members, Pat and Eva, have done a tremendous amount of work putting this all together. And please jump in if you have any questions along the way. We were happy to, Kari and myself, happy to answer any questions. And certainly, Deb, you have my contacts. Deb and I know each other very well, so you can always at any time call and email me or give me a call at home, and I'm happy to fill you in on any details or any questions that you may have. So thank you so much for coming. Really appreciate it.
And for those of us those who might be watching the recording of this, you are
yes.
Scott, the council president.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And I'm always available. I'm addressing it to everyone. Absolutely, not just those who are currently in attendance, but my contacts are located online and in the front of the co-op. So please, if anybody has a question, I'm happy to take it. Not just addressed to those that are currently being recorded right now and in person. So absolutely. And Kari's the general manager, and he's certainly available also. And all of our, as I said, Pat and Eva, the recruitment committee, we're all accessible by email or by telephone. So thank you.
Great. So that's introductions. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Deb Robinson. I joined Hunger Mountain when I moved to Montpelier, which is probably 10 years ago. So exactly.
Cool.
But I moved here from Brattleboro, and I was a member of the co-op in Brattleboro.
Nice.
And the other thing I'd say about it is that my father was very interested. He actually was operating a co-op grocery store when I was born.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
History.
Yeah. I found after my parents died, I got a lot of stuff, and I found it looked like just a newsprint thing, and I was reading it, and it was called the Institute. And it's a place that he attended as a kid, or as a teenager, I guess. And it taught people about cooperatives. It taught them, why they're important, how to start one, how to maintain them. And he apparently attended that back before I existed.
And where did you live then?
Well, this was before I was born.
Yeah.
But the co-op was in Hillsborough, Kansas.
Great. Are you a member of any other co-ops?
I believe so.
Okay, so our agenda today, we're going to recap the mission and ends and the impact that the co-op has. Just give you a little orientation as to the organization. Then we're going to talk about the role of the council. We've got the section where we delve into the characteristics of effective council members. And then a little bit about responsibilities and commitment and the benefits of being a council member, and then wrap up with the election process and the application that we have. And sprinkled through here, we have some questions for the first discussion. Go ahead, Scott.
Sure. And our mission, which you can see on the screen, or we have it posted in the community room, Hunger Mountain Cooperative exists to create, sustain a vibrant community of healthy individuals, sustainable local food systems, and thriving cooperative commerce. And we refer to this mission quite often. I would say at least once every council meeting, if not at least every other, and keep bringing ourselves back to keeping the mission, very in the forefront of what we do and the decisions we make that will affect the co-op members, staff, management, and certainly the community. So it's something we refer to quite often.
And the mission was actually crafted by the council a little over 10 years ago. It goes along with these 4 other statements, and all together, that's what we call our ends policy. The council has set the long-term desired outcomes for the co-op. And just moving along, one of the things about having statements like that is that they need to be interpreted. Like, what do those words actually mean, so we have more specific agreement. So we're going to shift into talking about how we measure success. Obviously, local food, local products, local economy, really important values for the co-op. So we, every year around this time, run our reports to see how we did over the past year. And this shows the last 5 complete years, fiscal years, in terms of local product sales. And you can see that we are at about 9.7 million at the end of last year. Do business with a lot of different Vermont businesses, 480 for goods and services, and just a little bit less than 40% of our store sales come from local products. Local we define as essentially as Vermont, and that 40% is on the high side for food products.
And when we have customer surveys, one of the top, usually 2 every single year, is customers are really requesting more and more local. And obviously in the crisis that we're in now, but for as long as I've been on the council, that's one of the main talking points. One of the affordability and local products our members and our customers strive or request that on a continuous basis. The more the better.
Okay. Another way we think about the impact that we have is in terms of health. And one of the ways that we have of measuring health is looking at the types of foods that we sell. And obviously, fresh food is an important component of how people eat for health. And so if we look at the fresh categories, which would include produce and refrigerated and cheese and so on, that makes up about 45% of our total sales. And that's actually been growing quite a bit in recent years. It's an important aspect of our business. You want to take this one, Scott?
Sure. Our local impact is tremendous. What was the exact number? It's I think 100. Well, we have 160 to 180 employees, and the economic impact, I don't know if we have the exact dollar, but I always like to tell a personal story of one of the reasons why I moved to Montpelier. Amy and I moved here 11 years ago is because of the co-op, because we came here from New York City and food is important. And without the co-op and the economic engine that it provides, Montpelier and certainly Washington County, the surrounding towns, is immense. And you can see the data right in front of you, both direct and growth, direct and indirect. Thanks.
Okay, and then a little bit more about the co-op's role in the community. We do a number of things to support our social ends. One thing is donations and sponsorships. You can see that's grown somewhat over time. We also have a program called Co-op Cares, which is a discount program for our members who are low income. And we've recently seen growth in that program. And then I think the co-op does a good job of making sure that we're not wasting anything. Estimated about 27,000 pounds of food that went to Capstone Community Action and other food pantries in the local area. And then finally, we have a giving program called the Hunger Mountain Cooperative Community Fund. And I just updated this number. It's a little over $50,000 actually that's been given out in grants over the past 8 years through that program.
What kind of organization?
Mostly nonprofits, but also some local businesses. There's small grants, usually in the $1,000 to $2,500 range. So they have to fit a very specific niche. And so mostly it's been a lot of food insecurity projects. If we can help somebody buy the piece of equipment that they need to make a difference, or sometimes it will be a startup business that needs some kind of seed funding.
Right, which we try to keep it quite local, and but it usually has pretty close. It can be for programs, and it usually has a pretty good impact, and we get feedback on what they're using the money for, and how that project worked out. And we have support from other co-ops. You can see the chart right there, that we sell almost $1 million worth of products from other co-ops. As simple as that.
And then the graph there is about our investments in other co-ops. So
right.
We have some cash reserves and choose to invest a portion of that into cooperative development.
Yes, thank you.
To further our mission. So here's a little pause as we're done talking about the data, but Deb, if you have any thoughts on what type of impact should the co-op prioritize in the coming 5 years? This is the kind of question that a council member would have to wrestle with.
Absolutely.
Well, I would certainly think with the pandemic, there might be some new things coming up. They're not there on the top of my head. But
yeah.
And we've also the council, obviously, since this all happened, we've had some very in-depth conversations on what will the co-op look like in 6 months, in 18 months, in a couple of years, and what do our members and our staff need now, and what will they need in the future. So we've been very introspective on what that potential landscape might look like. So it's been very on the forefront for most of our council meetings over the last few months.
Yeah, like I said, having a council is extremely helpful for staff right now in helping us think about the big picture and trying to forecast out what does it look like down the road. Okay, so we're going to shift into talking about the role. We kind of summarize it this way: the role of the council is to ensure that the co-op delivers the desired results, that's that mission, in a manner consistent with our values, right? So there's a number of pieces to that. One is, obviously, the council is elected by the members. It's here to represent the interests of the members. One of the ways it does that is to articulate the values, articulate the mission and the purpose of the co-op. And then from that, establish the policies and monitor those policies and make sure that we're living our values. Very specifically, to hire and supervise a general manager, and then overseeing the allocation of resources and the budgeting process. That's a very important piece of it. And then it kind of comes full circle by then engaging back with the member owners, sharing information about what's going on with the co-op, but also asking good questions and learning about those interests and those values again. It's sort of a cyclical process.
Right, and we operate under policy governance, which I know Deb is very familiar with, so that it's clearly defined what the roles are of the council members, and not to overstep the council or board of directors roles or lines. So it works quite well for this organization, in my opinion.
So then this slide talks about authority, and this is I think common to most boards, that the board has all the authority. They basically are in charge of the organization, but that authority is as a body. It's not as individual members. Scott, as president, has the authority to speak for the council, but other than that, he doesn't have any particular authority over the organization. And then the authority is coming from state statutes. We have articles of incorporation, our agreement with the state. We have bylaws, which are our agreement amongst ourselves as members. And then the co-op members elect the council.
Right.
Scott, you want to take that?
Sure. And what a healthy council, the board of directors, really needs a diverse membership of the council from their various skills, whether it's from a law perspective, from a government perspective, farmers and retailers. So we're constantly, and part of the big push here is just try to, for this outreach, is to get a wide range of expertise that could for the decision-making process, and it's just at times where we've needed some more diversity, from an ethnic perspective, and certainly from the skills and experience. It's really important that obviously you need to love the co-op, and really if it's in your blood and you believe in the mission, and you need to write a little statement, which I think we'll go through in a little bit, on why you want to serve, and just basically we all have to sign a kind of an ethics, or a sheet of paper that says we don't have any conflicts, and you have to make sure that obviously for any board, and certainly a board like this co-op, that your decision making is not personal, but it's what's best for the co-op and Hunger Mountain Institution.
Okay, so effective council members, in our experience, have been good communicators and good listeners. It's a team, so you have to be a team player and willing to work with others. Personable, even-tempered, open-minded, all helpful. There's a degree of vigilance that's required. There's a lot of details. It does require some homework. And then you need to be comfortable talking about the co-op, because you will get questions, sometimes formally, and sometimes it could be your friends and neighbors.
And basically, what can you do to be an effective council member? I found it reading the policies, our ends. Certainly, I found it valuable, and certainly, even if you're considering, go back, and all of our minutes are online for the council meetings, and obviously read the bylaws also. You're here for a training, which is, or you're here for informational, and just keep up to what our issues are. We're going to be having some potential, potential bylaw changes that we're investigating, and just keep up and read all the information. Be a team player. That's the most important thing. And as a member of the council, I was like to implore to my council members that being on a council is looking at the macro, and being have foresight in what, not necessarily the minutia of what's going on a day-to-day basis, but where the members, staff, and the council want to move make decisions for the prosperity of all involved going forward. Big picture, long term. It's exactly as I said.
Cool. So a little pause here, and just a couple questions. And any other boards?
I was on the board for the trip to Montpelier for a while, and I was with that board. I was also, it was, I can't remember the name, it was a small co-op. I was on the board.
A food co-op?
That wasn't food co-op, it was, people shared their skills with one another.
Oh.
Probably others in my past. I have to go back over them.
Favorite part of it? Something you enjoyed?
I really enjoy working with a group of people
Yeah.
and try and figure out what's best for the organization.
Deb's also been president of the Unitarian Church.
Yeah. I like the part about being on the board that I really enjoy is not having, no one person has to have all the answers, right? It really is a team. That's the only way it can work. Okay, so responsibilities, there's definitely a lot of learning that's involved, and we will help you with that. Learn about members' needs and desires. We have over 7,000 members, so it's no small thing. Learning about the co-op's resources, what our current plans are, our capacity, to meet people's needs and wishes. Scott mentioned we got a bunch of source documents, bylaws, policies, all those things. You got to read up on that, and then get a sense about the external trends, opportunities, and threats, things that are happening outside the building. And there's a lot going on right now. It's a pretty exciting time, actually. And I think there's a real hunger to learn like where are things headed, what are the scenarios that could happen. And then you got to put all that together somehow and work to balance the interests of all our different stakeholders. When we say community in the mission, we talk about employees, members, customers, local vendors, the broader Central Vermont community, and other co-ops. So we got a lot. We're trying to accomplish quite a bit.
And for responsibilities, since we're policy governance, the council can on a regular basis set, change or set policies. Every meeting, every council meeting, we review a couple of policies. We redid them years ago. We had a committee. We hire and supervise the general manager. Our two biggest, most important jobs in our mission is hiring and firing the general manager and setting his, reviewing his performance and compensation, and approving the budget. But we also, even those are the two things that are kind of etched in stone. We obviously make decisions. Corey would not make decisions, or when it comes to, for instance, signing off on the union contract with the staff, and that's all reviewed and gets our feedback, and he's looking for our opinions on that. And if we happen to have oversee an acquisition, our bylaws are, which we potentially are going to review some and have a bit of changes. But right now, many of the changes, major changes, would have to be done by a vote by the members. Preservation of our assets and fiscal responsibility, and just keeping the members informed from meetings and correspondence, what's going on with their member-owned co-op.
And then just a reminder that council members generally don't get directly involved with the day-to-day operations or the employee relationships. That sometimes comes up in meetings, but usually in the context of policies. Why don't I do this one, Scott? So just a reminder, you've been on a board, so you may be familiar with this, but there are some actual legal duties of any board of directors. There's the duty of obedience, which just means you got to follow the laws and the rules, the co-op's own policies. There's the duty of loyalty, which means you're acting in the sort of best interest of the organization when you get elected to a leadership position like that. And that takes the form of maintaining confidentiality, avoiding conflict of interest, and not displaying favoritism. And then there's the duty of care, or also called the duty of diligence, which just really means that you're acting in good faith, you're doing your homework, you're making reasonable decisions. And that's embodied in this business judgment rule, which really says that as long as you're acting on an informed basis and you're acting in the best interests, boards will make mistakes from time to time, but you make reasonable decisions, and then you're protected. And of course, the co-op has director and officer insurance. No big deal. There haven't been issues really in this regard, but I think it's important for people to be aware. Scott,
and on the topic of commitment, 9 council members, 3 years. Sometimes a council member may be appointed for the remainder of that term. So sometimes if we may not have 3 3-year spots, it may be a little more staggered. But there's always 3 every 3 years. 3 comes up every year. This year there may be some shorter terms to fill out people that may not stay on. Generally, first Monday of every month, starts at 5:30, and been running 2 or 3 hours virtually. We've been trying to narrow it down. In person, we have dinner together at 5 and start the meeting at 5:30. But we've been trying to keep it to 2 hours ish or less because it gets a little tedious being on a virtual meeting. Not required, but very much encouraged to join and be involved in a couple of committees. There's some standing committees like the annual meeting committee, finance committee. There's the executive committee that's composed of the president, vice president, treasurer, and secretary. And those that meets monthly. Some of the other committees, finance maybe every quarterly, unless needed. But the commitment could be about 5 to 10 hours a month for the most part. President may have more or less. It's not a huge commitment, but it's a commitment that you need to make, and not you have to be at the meetings and hopefully be involved in committees and show up for them. Annual meeting, encouraged to be there for that. This year it's going to be November 12th. And then every January or February, certainly in the past, the council with some upper management gets together with for a retreat, and to kind of map out what the priorities are and what work or topics the council feels they would like to accomplish in the coming year. And that's been taking place, as I said, basically the beginning of the year.
All right, and then the rewards for being on the council. Well, first of all,
the rewards are priceless.
Yeah, literally. There are opportunities for personal and professional development. We budget and allocate resources for training and development, including when it's possible to go to in-person conferences and workshops and things like that. That's kind of on hold for the time being, but it's an important thing. And then no end of interesting topics to cover. So if you like to keep on your toes, this is a good role. It's fun to be part of the team, no question. And then the most tangible is a 10% discount on co-op purchases, and that would apply for you and your apartment.
And basically, to apply, it's as simple as that. I think the statement is under 200 words or something that'll be published, put on the website, and put in a mailing. We have something called an Apple system, where by showing up to this, for instance, you get an apple, and it's spelled out on how you can earn an apple, and then by in your bio, depending on how many apples you earned, by completing those tasks, there'll be an apple next to your name. Conflict of interest disclosure, which obviously we talked about a little bit before, and we had talked about this the other day. Signatures of at least 9 member owners. I think we're going to be talking about in the near future on whether we can just do that online. Get emails from 9 individuals, but it's usually it's not a huge obstacle for the most part. Most people are very willing to give an endorsement or list. That's as simple as that.
All of this can be found on the co-op website. So, any questions?
I don't think so. I mean, it's what I sort of expected.
Yeah. Sure. Let me see. Here's a reflection question then.
Yeah.
This is a big one. This is one that we asked the council, actually. What was that, back in June, Scott?
Yeah.
We had a really good discussion about this. Really helpful.
Yeah, and then we actually had a special meeting too. We've been bringing this up at most council meetings, and we had an extra council meeting just to talk about, as I mentioned before, where we could possibly feel. And what's also good for the council, it's not, if you're on a board of director of X company, that you may not even use those products. We're all members, and some of us in the past had come on almost on a daily basis, not quite now, but so we really know, we interact with our members on a daily, weekly basis, and when they know you're on the council, I'm solicited for, for a lot of feedback. Both people mentioning to me, and I'll give them my opinions, but it's something that's really tangible. You know all about the co-op. You've been a member for a decade, and it's really rewarding to be involved and know you have a stake both in the governance, and obviously it's where many of us do most or all of our shopping and our sustenance.
All right. I think that does it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Deb. All right. Have a good day.
Yeah.
You too.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye.